some of the next stuff I'm talking about is this smart contract layer. And I would say, like, I come forth asking for people across the political spectrum, if you value the Constitution, we need more people looking into smart contracts, because ultimately if they install a logic layer between us and everything in the world, whatever rights we imagine we have under the Constitution, they will be impenetrable. We will not break through that layer of smart contract arbitration to get to it. Now, I would love to have seen, like many people who identify themselves as constitutionalists, to be unpacking what smart contract law means for people and digital identity and cyber-physical systems and goal-directed behavior. I'm not seeing that. I'm not. And I would love to know why. Like, I've been in a number of Western conservative states where people are very much about the Constitution. They don't seem to know a lot about Web3. And that's a problem. So I would just invite, if that's something that you hold dear wherever you are in the political spectrum in the process, that if you're not understanding the layer of international arbitration that's coming through AI, whatever old-timey things you want to imagine are going to be irrelevant, because we're going to be living in a state of exception. So that's just the framing. I'm going to read a little section here from World Sensorium about planetary democracy. For one thing, it seems clear that democracy has been waiting for the development of some of our most recent inventions in order to become really effective. Now, what works government from Michael Bloomberg is really central to all of this. What kinds of changes in the social applications of new inventions and techniques will be required is a problem to be investigated, but it is clear that if we are able to secure a swift and intelligent reaction of the electorate on immediate issues, we must utilize radio, television, and airplane. Okay, this is 1946. In our air era and ether age, does not the slow machinery of old-time elections with campaign speeches and the setting up of electoral procedure seem out of date? Again, this is 1946. Pre-social media. Imagine the field day social media and DARPA has with all of this. If so, don't we need to devise new methods of summing up public opinion much nearer to the sources of reaction? The Citizens Forum, the Gallup poll idea, or something else will somehow have to be coordinated with our older methods of balloting or replace them entirely. Perhaps even the ration book idea could be extended, and each year, every citizen of voting age could be issued a book of coupons, which would cover so many events of public concern for that year. Instead of our present elaborate electoral machinery, each individual would be allowed to vote wherever he is by turning in a coupon at a fixed government station for the recording of public opinion. And when a crisis arises, it can be discussed by radio and television with the citizens directly in their homes or public forums. Zoom public meetings, anyone? In international affairs, voting could be done through representative regional bodies when action is necessary, as in famine, epidemics, uprisings. Air patrols could go into action swiftly. All of this may sound slightly premature, but surely there are problems here worthy of investigation. I mean, how can democracy use science? And how can science be democratized in its applications? Only an international institute could give an answer in theory, test the theory out in practice, revise the theory in light of results by means of the circular reaction arcs that reach together around the world. Science and planetism must be welded together. Okay? That's liquid democracy, folks. Sorry. That's coming. That's the smart contract layer. And actually, it's probably been in development at least since the late 19th century by the Smiley brothers on the Mohonk House on the Hudson with Andrew Carnegie. And it's going to be framed as peace and international arbitration. That's your smart contract law. So, in the game, we are all agents in the simulation. They like to bring agents together in teams, interesting teams, access the adjacent possible, and then break the teams down and start over until they get the information they want. The playing field of the game is the commons. You'll hear a lot about public goods and commoning. That's the game board. All of this stuff that I've been talking about today is framed as a public good, a digital public good. And the venture capitalist class are coming up with new ways of financing it retroactively. So they're just paying for results. And things like brain-computer interfaces will be reframed as a public good. And your 5G sensor networks will be reframed as a public good. The open-air prison will be framed as a public good and financed by venture capital so that they make money not only on the infrastructure, but on betting on our compliant behavior in the game. So yes, they call it socio-technical systems. Democratic governance of socio-technical systems. Spend some time, look that up. That's important. All of this stuff that we're dealing with like breaking down of civic institutions, elected politicians going rogue, terrible behavior, stolen elections, all of that narrative is a buildup to HAL 9000. It just is. They call it futarchy. Robin Hanson developed this in around 2000. There was a recent paper by Vitalik Buterin, the same guy behind the soul-bound tokens. So essentially what they're talking about is assigning your ballot to a proxy vote. So you will have that coupon that they talk about in here in 1946. You will have maybe 300 coupons a day that you're responsible for, and you proxy out your interest to people like the Sierra Club, or your nephew in the military, or your third grade teacher. They literally talk about it like that, and they'll vote for you on all of these topics. But ultimately, as in the other image, the goal is that you will have a robot. And this is by Cesar Hidalgo. He has a nice TED Talk about it. It's going to be so much more convenient and effective and efficient to simply vote on everything and through tokenization on the blockchain. And, I went out and I can't remember, the various nonprofits like, oh, the elections are being stolen, voter repression, da-da-da. I said, well, if you actually really truly cared about democracy, you would figure this stuff out. This isn't hidden. This is out in the open. Governance, blockchain governance for socio-technical systems with robots. And you're standing on the street corners begging for money for your NGO, and you don't even tell people what's really happening. That's a problem. Because how can an informed electorate make any decision if they don't even know the game they're in or what the rules are? These people know where it's being driven. So among these people, Block Science is one of the key blockchain players. It's also involved with Common Stack. Again, this is all talking about commoning, the socio-technical commoning. His name is Michael Zargham. Well, he got his PhD in electrical engineering from Penn Engineering out my way in Philadelphia, because I'm from the land of the Constitution, right? Because it's supposed to protect us from all this stuff. Only most of his PhD funding in, complex systems, epistemology, ethics, math, engineering, and society came from the military, from the Army and the Navy, okay? So he's working on making your governance machine readable. I mean, you can look at some of the papers and the things. It's DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. This is all being set up. And he's now in Tempe. That's where his address is, the SEC filing for Block Science, and you should look that up, actually, and the Common Stack project. It's 3 guys, it's 3 houses. One is in South Philly, one is in South Jersey and like Gloucester, and this guy's in Tempe, okay? So this is being set up as we debate democracy and how it's actually working or not working. I don't know, I think we're somehow imagining like we're living in like some golden era, or like we're gonna get back to a golden era, but unless we know what the future is planned and has been since at least 1946, we're not gonna be well positioned to be strategic about it, because we're being managed. At every corner, we're being managed. And so like until the constitutionalists start spending some time on Web3 and the smart contract layer, I'm not really interested. Like until the voting suppression people like are doing this work, I don't wanna know, because you're playing in the wrong game. You're not in the right game, and we all have to get up to speed, so.